Hello, sweet Cancer soul. Have you ever found yourself standing on the edge of something you know is no longer right for you? A relationship, a version of yourself, a dream you once held so tightly, but now feels quietly expired. Deep down, you know, you've known for a while. You feel it in the silence between words, in the ache beneath your smile, in that soft inner voice that whispers, "It's time," and yet you're still holding on, not because you're weak, not because you're indecisive, but because for someone like you, who loves deeply, who remembers everything, letting go doesn't mean losing something. It means letting go of what once felt like home. You don't just release a person or a place. You release memories, moments, pieces of your heart that once believed this was forever. Today, I'm not here to rush you. I'm not here to push you into letting go. I'm here to sit beside you gently, to hold space for that sacred pause between knowing and doing, between feeling and choosing. That's where the Hanged Man enters this journey. He doesn't demand action. He invites stillness, a suspension in time where clarity is born. This reading isn't about forcing an answer. It's about letting your heart breathe again, letting your intuition speak without the noise of fear, letting your soul admit what it has quietly known for a long time. So for now, sweet Cancer, just rest here. You don't have to do anything yet. Just listen, just feel, and allow yourself to be held exactly where you are. There's a strange kind of ache in knowing, not the sharp sting of surprise, not the heat of anger or the collapse of betrayal, but that quiet, slow-burning ache of clarity, when your soul whispers, "This is no longer for you," and yet you don't move. You don't walk away. You don't speak up. You stay, suspended, somewhere between yesterday's comfort and tomorrow's freedom. This is the sacred energy of the Hanged Man. He appears not to punish, not to delay your destiny, but to teach you how to see differently, to help you surrender to the pause, not as weakness, but as wisdom. Because letting go, truly letting go, is not always about walking away. Sometimes it's about seeing the truth without flinching. It's about hanging in stillness long enough to feel what you've been avoiding, to ask yourself the questions no one else can answer for you. Am I staying out of love or out of fear? Do I still belong here? Or am I just afraid to leave? In this state of surrender, you're not powerless. You are choosing to wait, but not forever. You're choosing to let clarity come fully without being rushed by guilt, shame, or the voices of others. The Hanged Man turns the world upside down so that you can see things from the soul's perspective, not the ego's. And that shift changes everything, because when you finally act, when you finally let go, it won't be out of panic. It will be from peace, not a reaction, but a revelation. So if you feel suspended right now, if you're in between what was and what's next, you're not stuck. You're awakening, and that's a sacred thing. It's strange, isn't it? How we can hold on so tightly to something that no longer feeds us. How we can cling, not because it brings joy, but because it brings something even more seductive. Familiarity. This is the quiet message of the Four of Pentacles. A figure clutches their coins, arms wrapped around them, as if to let go would mean losing everything. And maybe that's how it feels for you right now, Cancer. Maybe you've built your world around something, a connection, a memory, a vision of who you thought you'd be. And even though it no longer fits, you hold on, because it's what you know. There's safety in the known, even when it hurts, even when it costs your peace. Because stepping into the unknown, that's terrifying. Your heart might say, "I know I need to leave," but your fear replies, "And go where?" So you stay. You stay in the job that drains you, You stay in the relationship that feels hollow. You stay in the pattern that keeps you small, not because you believe it will get better, but because you don't yet believe you'll be okay without it. But here's the thing no one tells you about holding on too tightly. The tighter you grip, the less room you have to receive. The Four of Pentacles isn't just about fear. It's about the illusion of control. The belief that if you hold on tight enough, nothing will change. But everything changes. That's the nature of life. That's the gift and the grief. And sometimes the greatest courage is not found in chasing something new, but in loosening your grip on what no longer serves your soul. So ask yourself gently, what am I holding on to right now? Simply because it feels familiar? And even more softly, what might happen if I let it go? There comes a moment, quiet but undeniable, when you begin to ask yourself, is this still love? Or is it just what I've gotten used to? It's not an easy question, especially for someone like you, Cancer, whose love runs deeper than most, who builds homes in hearts, who remembers not just moments, but the way someone's voice made you feel at 2 a.m. You've poured yourself into people, into dreams, into bonds that felt like lifelines. But now, something feels different, fainter, heavier, and still, you stay. Because you once called it love, because you made promises to them, to yourself. Because leaving would feel like giving up on everything you tried so hard to protect. But here's the truth that breaks and heals all at once. Love and attachment are not the same. Love flows. It allows. It liberates. Attachment clings. It contracts. It fears. Love whispers, grow. Even if you grow away from me. Attachment begs, don't leave. I won't survive without you. And sometimes, what we call love is really just the fear of losing what once made us feel whole. It's okay to admit that. It doesn't make you weak. It makes you honest. Because holding on to someone or something after the connection has turned into dependency is not an act of love. It's an act of self-abandonment. So pause with me here. Breathe. Ask your heart. Do I love this person? Or do I fear being without them? Do I want this life? Or am I just afraid to start over? These questions are not accusations. They are invitations. Invitations to love yourself enough to tell the truth. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is to stop calling attachment love. There's a silence in the Eight of Cups that speaks louder than words. In the image, a figure walks away, not in anger, not in haste, but in quiet resignation. They leave behind 8 perfectly arranged cups, symbolizing all they once built, loved, hoped for. But still, they go. Why? Because sometimes, Cancer, even when everything looks fine on the outside, your soul knows the difference between almost and enough. The Eight of Cups isn't about failure. It's about truth. The kind of truth that whispers, I cannot keep shrinking to fit inside this life. I've stayed long enough to know this is no longer home. This card holds a sacred kind of grief, the grief of walking away from what you once prayed would last. And that takes incredible courage. Because choosing yourself, especially when no one else understands, isn't selfish. It's spiritual. It's what happens when you realize that staying in a place where your soul is starving is a far greater betrayal than the pain of letting go. So you walk, not because you stopped loving, but because you started loving yourself more. You walk with tears in your eyes, memories in your chest, and trembling in your legs, but also with a quiet knowing, this is not the end. This is the beginning of my return. To me, the Eight of Cups doesn't promise clarity right away. There's new map, new applause, new guarantee, just one step, then another, and another, until the silence becomes peace, until your heartbeat becomes your guide again. So if you're standing on that edge, dear Cancer, if the path ahead looks lonely, but your heart feels lighter at the thought of taking it, that's your soul saying, it's time. Not because you've failed, but because you're ready to live truthfully. And that's the most beautiful kind of freedom. There is a quiet, sacred power in reaching the end of a cycle. Not the kind of ending that explodes, not the kind that leaves you broken on the floor, but the kind of ending where you simply know, deep in your chest, beneath all the noise, that something has come full circle. This is the essence of the world. It is not a loud finale. It is a soft exhale, a deep bow, a closing of a door, not because you were forced to, but because you've finally outgrown the room. Dear Cancer, you've been walking through the spiral of lessons, holding pain, love, guilt, hope, and memory like water in cupped hands. You've carried it all with grace. But now it's time to release. The World card arrives when you've learned what you needed to learn, when you no longer chase what isn't meant for you, when you can stand in the center of your own story hole, scarred, luminous. You are not who you were when this began. And that's the point. You've peeled back layers. You've let go of identities, attachments, illusions. And what remains is truth. Your truth. The world is not just an ending. It is a rebirth. It tells you the lesson has been lived, the pain has been felt, the door has been honored. Now, step through. It's not about rushing into something new. It's about recognizing that the old no longer defines you. You no longer need to prove your worth by staying. You no longer need to shrink to be accepted. You no longer need to dim yourself to belong. You are arriving fully and freely into the next chapter. And as you cross this threshold, know that this isn't a goodbye to your past. It's a thank you. A deep, soul-level thank you for all it gave you, all it showed you, and all it helped you become. Because every ending is simply the beginning, seen from the other side. Sometimes, what looks like destruction is really divine intervention. The tower doesn't come gently. It doesn't knock politely on the door of your comfort. It crashes through loud, unapologetic, undeniable. And maybe, just maybe, that's exactly what you need. Because here's the quiet truth. You knew it was cracking. You felt the instability. You saw the signs. But you kept building anyway. Maybe out of hope. Maybe out of habit. Maybe out of fear. But the soul cannot thrive in what was built on illusion. And so, the tower falls. The relationship you tried to save. The role you performed to be accepted. The version of yourself that kept everyone else comfortable. Gone. At first, it feels like the end of everything. The loss, the grief, the rawness of what now? It shakes you. It strips you. But underneath the rubble, something sacred remains. You, your truth, your heartbeat, your raw, unfiltered, untamed essence. The tower clears what you would not release yourself, not as punishment, but as mercy. It's the universe saying, you don't have to pretend anymore. You don't have to hold this up with bleeding hands. You're allowed to let it fall. And in that fall, as terrifying as it is, comes a strange kind of freedom. You begin to feel, for the first time in a long time, your heart beating just for you. Not for what others expect. Not for the life you thought you should have, but for the life that's actually yours. So if everything feels like it's breaking apart right now, breathe. You are not being punished. You are being revealed. The tower does not destroy you. It destroys the lie you were told you had to live inside. Let it fall. Because what comes next is truth. And truth, dear Cancer, is where your real power begins. There comes a moment in every journey when silence becomes too loud to ignore, when the ache inside your chest isn't just sadness, it's a summoning. This is the essence of the Judgment card. It is not about punishment. It is not about shame. It is about awakening. A trumpet sounds from beyond, and suddenly, the parts of you thought were long dead begin to stir. The version of you that once dreamed wildly, the voice you silenced to survive, the truth you buried beneath duty, fear, or love. They rise, not to haunt you, but to invite you. Will you come back to yourself now? Will you stop living in the shadows of who you've outgrown? Will you finally answer the call you've been hearing all along? Judgment is not gentle. It demands clarity. It asks you to look at the choices you've made, with honesty, with compassion, and with courage. And it says, you don't have to stay in the loop of old stories. You can step forward. You can choose differently. You can begin again, this time from truth. But here's the hardest part. Only you can decide. No one else can make this leap for you. No one else can rise in your place. Judgment isn't about being ready. It's about being willing to forgive yourself, willing to shed the roles that no longer fit, willing to stop waiting for permission. Because the only thing more painful than transformation is staying asleep when your soul is begging you to wake up. So pause with me, Cancer. Place a hand over your heart, close your eyes, and listen. Do you hear it? That soft, trembling voice that says, this isn't the end. It's your resurrection. The past has taught you. The pain has refined you. The fall has humbled you. Now, it's time to rise. Not as who you were expected to be, but as who you truly are. There is a strength that doesn't shout, a power that doesn't need to dominate, a presence that doesn't demand the room, but changes it the moment it enters. This is the King of Cups. He doesn't rule with control. He rules with depth. He knows the storms because he has survived them. He knows the tides because he has felt them all. And Yeth does not drown. Cancer, this is you when you have loved and lost, fallen and risen, grieved and grown, and finally, stopped apologizing for how deeply you feel. The King of Cups is not about shutting down your emotions. It's about mastering your relationship to them. He doesn't numb himself. He doesn't avoid the waves. He holds the wave in his body, in his breath, in his heart, and chooses how to respond with grace. This is where you are now. After everything you've been through, you are no longer the version of you who reacts from fear, who pleads to be chosen, who swallows their truth to keep the peace. Now, you are someone who can say, this is what I feel, this is what I know, and this is what I choose. Not in anger, not in pride, but in clarity. You have learned how to sit with the ache without needing to escape it. You have learned how to listen to someone else's storm without being pulled under. You have learned to trust your own inner sea, not because it is always calm, but because it is always yours. And that is sovereignty. That is emotional mastery. That is love without losing yourself. So if you've wondered, when will I finally feel like myself again? The answer is, when you stop hiding the depth of who you are not too much. You are not too sensitive. You are not too emotional. You are simply someone who feels deeply and now, finally, knows what to do with it. That is your gift. That is your power. That is your kingdom. Dear future me, I don't know exactly where you are right now, what city you're standing in, what name you whisper to the sky when no one's listening, what grief still lingers like smoke behind your eyes. But I know one thing. You made it. You survived every heartbreak you thought would shatter you. You stepped out of the shadows you once called home, You looked fear in the face and said, "Not this time. I choose me." And that matters. It mattered every time you said no, when it would have been easier to say yes. It mattered every time you cried alone, but still got up the next day. It mattered every time you doubted your worth, but dared to love anyway. I know you still carry scars. I know you still have days where the past pulls harder than the present. But I also know you are softer now, not weaker. Wiser now, not colder. Clearer now, not emptier. And I hope you've forgiven me for all the ways I tried to survive, even when it looked like self-sabotage. For all the times I begged someone to stay, even though I was the one abandoning myself. I didn't know better. But now I do. And you are the proof of that. You are the breath I fought for, the peace I prayed for, the love I finally gave to myself. I hope you look in the mirror and see someone who walked through fire, but learned to make light from it. I hope you've fallen in love again, with your own laugh, your own life, your own truth. And even if you're still becoming, still healing, still figuring it all out, know this: I am proud of you. I am rooting for you, and I trust you with this life we've been given. Keep going. Keep choosing love. Keep choosing you. Forever and always. Your past self, who never stopped believing in your future,